Hey everybody, this is Perch. Well, it's almost a new year, so we're wrapping up 2023, and that's exciting. I mean, why not? No, I'm just kidding. You're listening to this and you're like, what the hell? How old is this video? Now it's February, and it's we are into the new year. I'm not that far behind, but anyway, so we got this mail. It says, short and sweet. Did they stop bringing in writers with knowledge on the characters to the main lines, highest selling titles, because they're afraid to embarrass their staff? And it says, Dear Perch, hope your holidays are fun. Kids happy with their presents. Now, did they stop bringing in writers with knowledge of the characters onto the main line, highest selling titles, because they're afraid to embarrass their staff? Are they afraid to get replaced? Is that really that simple? Be well, sir. Have a happy new year. Thank you very much. Happy new year to you. So this is something that comes up. It's a very short mail, but it's a point that I've heard many times that people asked about before, which is, does the editorial selection of writers often preference people who are earlier in their careers, do not know as much about what's going on, do not know as much about kind of the characters they're hired to write with, because it makes the editorial's job look more substantial when they actually have a role to play. If you're going to bring on a writer with vast knowledge of a character or property, then, what does editorial have to do? In many cases, the writer is probably more familiar with the characters than the editor is, and that could be uncomfortable. Another kind of variant of this question is, do editors bring on, inexperienced writers or writers without a lot of knowledge of the character because they don't want to be argued with? And if they come in and they say, hey, here's something we need, and, I want the character to be doing this and this, they don't want to have a conversation with the writer that basically goes, hey, that's not how their powers work. That's not, the story is already covered somewhere else, and all the rest. And, my answer to that is no. I don't believe editors are intentionally selecting inexperienced writers in order to protect their egos. I do think that there is, but there's a couple of splinters of truth in here, but by and large, no. I think, and this doesn't make it better, by the way. A lot of editors are either overworked or /lazy, and depends on who you want to talk to and what kind of spin you want on that particular answer. But there's a decent amount of editors who are on multiple books and who feel that they do not have the time to actually put in a solid effort or, do a good job on the 5 or so books that they've got, and they were just handed 5 more, so now they've got 10 books. And so it becomes an exercise of just, becoming more of a project manager than an editor, somebody who's really just trying to push books out the door and have, creators give them their material on time. And the whole thing starts to become a lot less about getting, quality continuity work out, and rather it becomes a lot more about just getting water through the pipes, just getting work done. And so you could call that like overwork. You could also call it laziness. I've met plenty of both. There are definitely some editors who have way more than is reasonable for them to do, and so quality as a result suffers. And I've had editors that clearly don't want to do anything. And there are some out there. You do kind of the bare minimum. They will, you get notes for your comics. There's 2 paragraphs of notes. They indicate that the editor didn't really even read the manuscript they got. And so, there's you see both types. And so as a result of that factor, it is the case that some editors pick, people that they know, people for their Rolodex, people who might actually have zero experience or be the right fit for a character, because it's just a lot easier for them. They reach in, it's like, hey, I've been chatting with this person on Twitter. Seriously, there's editors who will say, I've been following your Instagram for a while, and you're somebody who I'd like to work with, and it's nice and convenient because we're already following each other. Let's just get you to the system and go. I know one writer in particular that was hired to do a one-shot, just a single issue, and knew that the editor was overworked, and so did just basically wrote a 4-issue limited series anyway, and then kind of pretended that was always what the editor had asked for, and the editor was confused, but the writer's like, no, that's what you wanted. I mean, I did all this work, and it's almost guilted them into just running the whole thing. I mean, by the way, some of you, it's like, that's absurd. That never happened. I mean, I'm trusting the writer that told me that story because I know the editor in question. I absolutely buy it. But so in terms of, editors are often picking creators that are easy to work with, not necessarily creators that are, great fits for the title. And, if you're picking a more experienced writer, the experienced writer is going to have more opinions. And if they're going to have more opinions, that probably means more work. It's going to be more work for the editor. And so if you layer all these factors together, then I think there's some of that. There's selection bias that comes in where, the editor is picking people who they know is going to be just simpler for them. And that's not good. I think that, there's a lot of flaws in that. And I think that, it leads to some of what you see. I think that, but in terms of editors, being so thin-skinned and so self-absorbed that they're intentionally hiring bozos to work on their projects rather than people who'd actually do a better job, it would be it's a nice idea and it's a nice theory, but it doesn't fit. It doesn't actually work in real life because the challenge is, editors are also graded by if these books are successful, if they actually make a splash, and if you just have a long history of titles that suck, and if you're hiring inexperienced writers, the inexperienced writer often comes with a bunch of other flaws, not just bad writing. It often comes with doesn't get their stuff in on time, doesn't work well with others. Their manuscript is hard for the artist and the other people in the project to parse. So I mean, there's like all these problems. And if an editor gets a reputation for having a lot of projects with problems and they don't sell, I mean, look, a forgivable sin is that you've got, top tier talent who's putting out high selling books and the numbers are really good, but it's a clusterfuck. At Marvel, you've had creators, you've had writer artist combos, not mentioning names, who've been hilariously late at times. But the creators involved are some of the biggest and brightest and perfect people in the company. I mean, look at it this way. The Assad and Jonathan Hickman, the lateness to some of the Secret Wars issues definitely hurt some of the scheduling that Marvel was doing, and it created a headache. But nobody's kicking Hickman out. Nobody is saying that Ribic can't do comics anymore. So I mean, a lot of sins are forgiven if the sales are high, even if the logistics and some of those other elements are off. And so an editor who's sitting on that is going to be an editor that's still rewarded. An editor that's sitting on things that are easy for them, or rather, they're deliberately don't want to look foolish, so they're going to hire incompetent idiots to do their book. It's going to catch up with them very quickly. I know there's a common, first of all, I don't think it's that common. There's just this talking point that gets parroted, and this must be said on some other YouTube channel or live stream or something, because it comes up enough that this isn't just people coming up with this idea of their own, but that there's people working inside Marvel and DC who are like saboteurs who are intentionally just trying to destroy the companies from within. So they're making, it's like a Brewster's Millions kind of situation. They're making like the worst possible choices on purpose because they want to see everything burn. That doesn't, unfortunately, that's not true. If there are bad choices being made, and there are plenty of them, it's because people involved are dumb or don't know what they're doing, or being more generous, too busy, or any number of things like that. The idea that you've got a corporation where people are intentionally trying to tank things, it just like that doesn't work. There's lots of ways where it doesn't fit. Like, we're going to deliberately drive this thing into the ground to own the conservatives. Like, is that because it usually comes along with like, hey, the people working in comics are left wing and they hate Trump, and so they know that there's Republican comic readers, and so they're intentionally going to blow up Marvel and DC to stick it to them because fuck Trump. Just there's an element of just listen to yourself. Like that's just not a way to go. Not only would that be a very short-lived job, but corporations, even if they lean left or lean right or wherever they go, they do still lean toward money, or they try to. These ideas that they're intentionally going to destroy their own company just to own the right is, again, it's fun as a meme. It doesn't actually work in real life. And unfortunately, stupidity is often the answer to a lot of these things, even though it's a lot less satisfying. But anyway, so there you go. No, I don't think editors are intentionally hiring idiots to make themselves feel better. But I do think they hire idiots to make their lives easier at times. And but because if you're going to go out, you're going to hire Walt Simonson, then you're going to have to, one, he knows what he's worth, so you're not going to be able to nickel and dime him. And two, you're going to get somebody who actually knows the character, which means some of your notes may be irrelevant, or you may get pushback, and that's going to add time to you. And so you're going to go for something easier, even if the result is crappier. And you're going to kind of assume, so a lot of people within Marvel and DC do, that, hey, it's Batman, it's going to sell no matter what I do. So therefore, hate that answer, but yeah, there's some element of that. Anyway, thanks for the question. Anyone want to disagree? Please lay out the big conspiracy for me. I'm always fascinated to hear it. Thanks for listening.